Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user pretendmode9494. Am I the a-hole for refusing to babysit my nephews again for free? I'm 29 female, child-free by choice. My sister, Celine, is 27 female, has 2 boys, ages 3.5 and 2. We live close to each other and I've been in their lives since the beginning. We are each other's only family. We come from a broken and dysfunctional family. I love the boys, but they are a lot of work, especially on top of my own career in social work and my personal reasons for not wanting kids of my own. I watch them, help out, or babysit probably 10 to 20 hours a week currently, and it's getting exhausting. At times, The times I've been needed have slowly increased, and over the last 7-ish months, it's been like this. At first, it was Celine looking for a part-time job, going to mandated courses to get unemployment, occasionally movie nights with friends, etc., which I was okay with. Now, I spend most of my free time at their house. Lately, the cause has been that her best friend's mom is dying, and Celine needs to be there. She's a single mom and I get that it's hard, but recently I feel like she's using me and I rarely see my fiance as we both work shifts that change all the time. Sometimes, when she asks me to watch them, I've had other plans. Celine sends me a voice message of the boys crying, missing me, guilt-tripping me, saying it's such a shame that I care more about myself than them. Telling me she would ask someone else if she had anyone else to ask. Saying really mean things about me being selfish for wanting to enjoy date night when she has to choose between her kids and her best friend's dying mom. I could handle if that's all it was, but now it's also affecting the next time we meet. When I get there, the house is a mess. There's nothing to eat and they happen to have a day for a shower or bath. Or Celine casually mentions I need to put together a gym bag or something similar for them for the next day. These weird extra things that are obviously revenge. The first time this happened, I assumed she'd be grateful I helped where I could, but it wouldn't be an issue if I didn't have time to do everything. I was quickly proven wrong. Before she got home, she casually asked if I had done the extra things, and when I hadn't, not all anyway, she suddenly had to stay a little later. This happened a few times and I'm ashamed to admit it took me too long to understand what was happening. I was just glad she was updating me on her estimated arrival time. She usually never did that. Another thing she does for revenge, I feel like, could be my exhausted interpretation, is not prepare meals for the kids or even leave money. When I go to the store, she promises to pay me back, but, you guessed it, tries to guilt me into saying she doesn't have to pay. She's also not kept her word about some things she'd promised, saying she doesn't want to do things for me if I can't help her with the boys. The excuses and backtracking on stuff start immediately if I don't do exactly what she wants. The latest example, I asked to borrow a dress for a wedding because I didn't want to buy one and we had always borrowed each other's clothes and she agreed. 4 days before the wedding, I couldn't show up as fast as she wanted on a short notice, so she said I could forget about borrowing the dress she'd forgotten she'd needed herself. I had to panic buy one. Last month, she promised to pick me up after leaving my car for some maintenance and she didn't show up. I was stranded. Took her 2.5 hours to answer her phone and get there. She also had the audacity to huff and puff about how inconvenient it was she had to drive me. Sorry this is so long, but it's been mind-blowing writing this all down and seeing what I'm putting up with. I'm such a doormat. So yesterday, I told her I couldn't come today when she called desperately needing me to watch the boys for the evening, and when she started her tirade of me being selfish, I kind of just snapped. I told her to shut up and listen. If she thought I was that horrible of a human and so selfish, she had 2 options. Either stop relying on me so much and letting her kids be exposed to my selfishness, or I'll really start being selfish and will not watch them free of charge ever again. Never do anything extra without being compensated. She hung up without saying anything. After I had stopped shaking, I hate confrontation as you can imagine, I started to really panic as I feel I just lost my last remaining family member. My fiance said it was long time coming and I should have stood up for myself ages ago, but he's biased as he loves me. I don't really have time for proper friends outside work colleagues, so I don't know who else to ask if I made the biggest mistake of my life. What if I don't see my nephews again? What if I had just done a bit longer and she'd eased a bit? Am I the a-hole for telling her to choose between my options? No, OP, you're not the a-hole for standing up for yourself. Your fiance is right. Your sister keeps using you because you let her. And the fact that she would use her children to guilt trip you simply tells me the kind of really crappy person and parent that you have for a sister. I get it. 2 boys, yeah, they're a lot of work, but they are her boys, so it's her responsibility. You also don't mention what's up with the dads. I mean, those boys didn't just show up out of nowhere. I could assume they're deadbeats, but the fact that your sister is such a crappy person as you've shown us, I'm gonna put that in a question mark. So no, OP, not the a-hole. And if you truly think about it, you're the one that has all the leverage because she needs you, not the other way around. You're just doing it because you love her. And users like your sister, they're just utilitarian, so she'll come back. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section. And now let's check out the community comments. Assault1 says, you lost an abuser, not a family member. This is an abusive relationship and she uses every tool of an abuser to control you and your behavior. What she has been doing to you is verbal, psychological, and financial abuse. It is beyond messed up and isn't love. Please set your hard boundaries and stand by them. She needs the reality check and you deserve not to be used and abused. Block her so you don't go back. I See Worldliness 9111 says, you know that not seeing your nephews again is never going to happen. Your selfish sister has been taking advantage of you for too long, and to her, your standing up for yourself is just a temporary setback in her manipulations. The only way her behavior is going to change is when yours changes. You need to set some clear boundaries and follow them with solid expectations of how you expect her to treat you. For example, guilt tripping, name calling, accusations, etc. are to end. If she tries any of these manipulative tactics, there will be clear consequences, and you need to follow through. If you tell her you can't babysit and she starts the guilt, you tell her something like, no babysitting for a month because of her behavior. Altering your behavior is the only way you can change hers. Oh, and all these times she needs to comfort her friend with the dying mother, you realize those are just BS. She wants free from kids time and is just trying to play on your empathy. Your sister is a class A a-hole. And Fun Professional 570 says, not the a-hole. Stop taking her calls, stand up for yourself. And if you think the boys are in a not great home, abused, neglect, no food, call CPS. And OP responds, I'm a mandated reporter due to my profession and I've been trying to distance myself from the situation to assess if I need to make the report, but it's always so subtle and she knows what to avoid doing and saying due to growing up with CPS. Edit to add, my 2 examples seem like I ask her or need her for stuff often, which I don't. The promises she breaks can be just as simple as having food for the boys for when I'm with them. The dress and leaving me without a ride are just specific events that were easier to explain, but I quickly realized it's not accurate. Well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole and that the sister is most definitely a user, that OP needs to stand her ground. So now let's move on with the first of many updates to see what happened next. A lot has happened. During the first 24 hours after me telling her that ultimatum, I decided not to answer her calls or texts to let her cool down. She called 77 times, sent over 100 texts and voice messages. They're mostly just her calling me a horrible person who abandons her family. I outlined a few rules with my fiance's help for the future if she comes to her senses and agrees to my terms. I wanted them to be ready even though it looked like she will never come around. I had conditions like I could watch them up to 3 times in 2 weeks, not more than 4 hours at a time. Meals need to be provided. No bath time or bedtime. I'm not spending any money. I then got messages from an unknown number. Fiance says it's an app or something, saying how horrible of a sister I am because now they have to watch their mom die alone without Celine there to comfort them. Based on the suspicions I had earlier and the language similarities, I think this was my sister pretending to be her friend. I talked to my supervisor on Friday afternoon and asked for her opinion. I first asked if it was okay to talk about personal stuff, and she was great about it. I don't work with children, and CPS has never been a part of my work, so I wanted to double check with someone more senior. We made a report together on Celine. The supervisor said it's better to do so, especially now that it's escalated and she might retaliate against me by hurting the boys in some way, as she's obviously not above that. I'm probably going to give her next week to cool off before resuming contact, and depending on what the messages or voice messages say, then I might contact her. If they are as abusive as now, I probably won't respond at all. It makes me unbelievably upset, but I hope the boys will also get a more stable environment without me, as she's using them as pawns with me. Fiancé says hello and wants everyone to know he's here for me and wants to assure everyone I'm not really that bad of a doormat, just for Celine for some reason. I'm looking into counseling through my work. It's too expensive out of pocket. Thanks for the messages and the shift kicks I obviously needed. For some reason, I've become blind to my sister's behavior and was only concerned whether I'd lose the boys from my life. Update 2. My fiancé unblocked Celine for a few hours to see if she was still messaging abusive stuff. She was. Nothing new there. CPS called and asked for more information, which I provided. They wanted to know specific dates and whether I had proof, and I sent them a lot of screenshots of messages with Celine. I chose to make the report with my name on it, as I felt like it added credibility. And it also kind of felt like punishment for me to use my name, especially after waiting so long to make the report, meaning my sister could now also know for sure it was me who made the report and I'd face the consequences for it. I've had one Zoom appointment with a psychologist through my work. It's been great so far, and I already got homework on boundaries. Seems fast, but she said they're trained to move quickly, as we are usually provided 5 visits and there should be progress in that time. I haven't heard from Celine or the kids other than the abusive messages. I'm ashamed to say I've driven by the house a couple of times just to see if everything looks normal, and it does. I had a talk with my fiancé after a commenter suggested the kids might need to be removed from Celine, and if we're planning on fostering or whatever if it came to that. We aren't. We don't want kids and have known that from the beginning. The day-to-day life as a family with kids sounds absolutely horrible, to be honest. There's nothing that appeals to us. We don't even want pets. We would become resentful and probably would lose ourselves in the process if we went there. I don't know how much there is to update after this. Maybe if the contact resumes, but honestly, I'm afraid to send her anything as she's just insulting me. I don't think she'd even really read what I wrote if I tried. Update 3. Today was my birthday. I'm 30. Yay! And I just had an ordinary work day. When I got home, my sister was waiting for me. My fiancé wasn't home yet. Celine congratulated me and actually seemed normal at first, but when I couldn't behave like I normally would, attentive, asking how I could help her, etc., she got irritated. She said she'd known I'd never loved the boys and was only jealous I didn't have kids. I tried to make them love me more, and then I'd falsify reports to CPS and get custody. I actually kind of laughed. It was so ridiculous. I told her I don't even want kids and wouldn't take hers even if they were offered. Might have been a cruel thing to say, but I'm just so tired. She somehow got angrier and saying how horrible the boys will now feel knowing I'd abandoned them and proving I didn't love them. I knew I couldn't win with her, so I just asked why she was here and where the kids were. Celine said their whereabouts were none of my business. Fair enough. And she was here to tell me I'd never see them again. I'd accepted that as a possibility, or even probable, so I didn't really react, which made her even angrier. She tried to grab me, but I stood about 6 feet away so she couldn't reach me, and I just ran inside the building and closed the door behind me. Luckily, it locks automatically. She followed, so I shouted through the door that I would call the police if she didn't leave. She kicked the door and left without saying anything. I went to our apartment and sat on the floor. My hands were shaking so I couldn't write, but I made a voice recording on my phone on everything in case I need to contact the police or a lawyer or something. After around 20 minutes just breathing, the door lock rattled and I got really scared until I understood it was my fiancé getting home from work. I was still on the floor, so he obviously freaked out. I told him everything and he said we should make a police report and also update the CPS people about Celine's irregular behavior. I still feel weirded out reporting her because we endured much worse as kids and don't think anyone reported our parents, but my fiance asked if I would make this report at work if it was someone else's family. I said it's not fair as I don't work with kids for this exact reason, but I guess I'd report it. It's getting late and I can't sleep, worrying about making the police report tomorrow and wondering what to tell CPS. I guess I'll explain the whole thing and they decide what's relevant. Oh, CPS let us know on Monday, I think, that my sister is under investigation and they gave me the contact information for their caseworker, so at least that report will be easy to make. Update 4. Sorry it took a while, but I've been trying to keep busy, taking extra shifts at work, as I miss the boys. I haven't heard from them at all since my sister kicked at our door. CPS has been in contact a few times, but as we let them know we wouldn't be willing to take the boys unless absolutely necessary, not even for a short foster placement, they haven't been telling us as much about their situation. It feels like we don't know much anymore, but I guess we're outsiders now, so I get it. The family court date is set for next month, and we're debating whether to ask if we can go, but I honestly think they wouldn't allow it now as we have nothing to do with the solution. I don't know whether we would have been able to attend even if we agreed to foster them. Usually the family courts are quite closed. As far as the boys go, I've accepted I'll probably never see them again. I wish that if I can keep tabs on them, I can reintroduce myself when they're 10 years or so older and have their own phones, etc. It's far away, but I have to have something to look forward to. CPS is still actively investigating. Until they stopped telling us anything, it sounded quite sure that at least a short foster placement was needed. My sister failed to show up to mandatory meetings, wasn't available when they tried to reach out to her, and at least once Celine arrived at the house without the kids just as the CPS came by, and they realized the kids had been home alone for the time Celine was gone. They contacted me to ask if I knew where my sister was and for how long, but I had stopped talking to her at that point. Celine said she'd just dropped off something the street over, so she was gone for less than 3 minutes. I don't know if I believe that, and the CPS didn't think so either. The reason we don't want or can't take the boys is mainly our health. I have a chronic illness and my fiance is in a wheelchair. We live in a one-bedroom apartment and having the boys' beds and stuff would make it inaccessible for a wheelchair, and that's just not okay. In addition, we just don't want kids at all. I don't think I'd be a great parent and can't expect my fiance to parent either as he didn't sign up for it either. I hope the boys are small enough so that they are easy to place, whether temporarily or permanently. It breaks my heart, but at the same time, I just can't do it. Thanks for the well wishes. Okay, so all those 4 updates happened in the span of 1 month. And now we have the final update that is 5 months after all of these updates. So let's move on with that to see how this story ends. I last updated 5 months ago not knowing how the custody proceedings would go in family court. Apparently, the first court date came and went without my sister there. She didn't notify them either, she just didn't show up. The next date was set for late July, and they issued fines if she didn't show up again, and sent a certified letter telling her that if she's not present, the case can still move forward. They wanted to make sure she wasn't just trying to delay things by staying away. The boys were placed together with a family, and they resumed contact with us and wanted us to meet them. They are now 4 and almost 3 years old. It had been several weeks, around 10, since we last met, so they were shy at the beginning, but I think at least the older one recognized us. They were timid and quiet, but I guess they haven't settled in yet. The family is planning on having them as long as needed, and I'm glad. They looked healthier, gained some weight, and overall just better color of skin, etc. I hadn't even noticed they looked bad before, but now with the improvement, the difference is clear. The July court date also came and went with no word from my sister, so then the court had to decide if they make the decisions without her and consider her as a parent who abandoned their kids, arrest and hold her until the next court date, or send another invitation to show up. To my knowledge, we're still waiting on their decision. Apparently, it's not common to have family court about custody issues with no legal guardians or parents present. Who knew? I just wish this was all over, obviously, but it's not my call to make, so I'm just focusing on building a relationship with the boys. I see them around once a week, either alone or with my fiance. We could apply to see them without supervision, but have no need to. We understand the boys need to be protected as they have practically no one. We still think we did the right thing by not taking them in. Fiance had a scary summer with pneumonia and we wouldn't have been able to be with the boys. We're not allowed in the court per se, but as the boy's closest relative, who keeps in touch, the CPS keeps us informed enough, especially now as the visitation with them resumed. I'm content with how things are. I wish none of this happened and I feel really guilty as it seems my sister's mental health was tolerable before I started to push back and now she's unrecognizable. Not that I've seen her in months, but still. My fiancé still thinks the breakdown was inevitable and just happened to happen now. Thanks for all the well wishes and messages. OP, you did the right thing. I'm sorry for whatever your sister is going through, don't really care. The important thing is, those boys are safe. That's it. Again, you did the right thing. So here's wishing you, your fiancé, and the boys the best in the future, OP. Thanks for sharing and take care. And now let's finish this video with a quick mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user VWBeds. Remove unapproved leave from the system. A few years ago, my job was on an 8-year contract that was nearing its end. I was looking at redundancy and rather than apply for another job, I worked out I was financially better off waiting for HR's axe to fall and take the payoff. My boss, however, made other plans, started taking time off and then left. Admin tasks were being ignored and gradually the offices were becoming empty as people left. I had a lot of annual leave entitlement banked and decided to book a holiday as redundancy was likely still months away and I used the HR system to book 2 weeks. I informed anyone who would listen, put in the calendar, etc. Of course, as my boss was now absent, nobody actually approved my leave in the system. I enjoyed my time off and came back to work and all was okay. As we approached the final weeks of the contract, I had to tidy up loose ends and asked HR about final payments, including any unused holiday entitlement. What I got back was a snide dig about how I hadn't properly managed my account as I had unapproved leave requests open that needed to be closed. This was the request for the leave I'd already taken, so I did what I was told and cancelled the request, adding another 10 days back into my banked leave allowance, which the HR department then had to pay me for during redundancy. Thank you very much for the time off and the extra cash. Well, OP, you were just following HR's instructions, so good for you. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.